And welcome back to another episode of Over the Glass. I am your host, Ness.
And I am Jay.
Today I want to talk about how much the Sharks piss me off. We haven't talked about the Sharks in a while since we've been so caught up in the heated rivalry. Yes.
Rivalry. That's the kid version.
No, right. Anyways, the phenomenon, heated rivalry, it's got us like tied around its finger. We're hooked on it, whatever. The hype has died down a bit. We miss talking about hockey. We're back to our regular scheduled podcast here. And I want to talk about how the Sharks have been playing simultaneously well and very bad. I have not been able to catch the beginning parts of like the last 4 games. And I'm just watching the score on my phone as I'm out and about doing things, only to see that they've been scoring freaking 3 goals within the first 5 minutes of each game, the past like 3 out of 4 games. And I'm like, what the heck, man? They turn on the game and they don't score anymore. I was like, what's the point of even watching at this point? So, there was a game. Which one was the first one that they decided to do all that nonsense?
I feel like it's been in the last couple of games. I mean, they felt like they were in the Oilers game until they weren't. I think that was the first time in a long while that I've been frustrated with the capital F. Because this whole season has exceeded my expectations. I mean, we are in and out of a playoff position, and at the end of the day, if we don't make the playoffs, I'm not that like upset about it, you know?
Right.
I will be happy if they do. I don't expect them to get very far. There's been some folks from when I go to games, and it's a very lively crowd around me. There's some discussions about how people feel, and I'm just here for whatever happens. They are even when they're not playing all that well, I think we've hit rock bottom so hard over the last couple of seasons that it's like, you can't hurt me. I've already been there. Like, I don't feel anything other than frustrated that they have. Well, I mean, at the end of the day, if we didn't have Celebrini, we'd be in a much worse position. The fact that we do, and everything stops and ends with him, the times in previous games where we felt like, well, it was a nice run, guys. We're in a hole of 0-4. It's the third period. 2 seasons ago, we would have been like, yeah, duh, of course we're in this situation. We're always in this situation, like, predicted. But this season, we're down 4 or 5 goals. Somehow, we rein it in, and they get right back on the horse, and they steamroll over this team. And it just blows my mind. So all that to say, while it is frustrating the last couple of games that they've been in it, and then they've gotten steamrolled, we're just, there's some games where, like yesterday's game against the Flames, there were times where I felt like, are the refs getting paid? Are they getting paid? Because how was that not a penalty when Ferraro gets cross-checked and boarded, cross-checked into boarding, and they were already going to call the penalty of the tripping that Wenberg drew, and somehow, because Desharnais comes in and sticks up for Ferraro, Desharnais gets the fighting major. Like, come on, are you blind? Like, and some of that kind of felt like it was happening during, I think it was the Panthers game. It's been so long already since we've talked about this team, so I can't quite remember which team it was. But there were a couple of games where I'm just like, you really are getting paid to call that or not see that, aren't you? So yeah, I feel like in the last couple of games they've been getting back to how we thought we would feel during this season, where it's like, you guys were doing so well, and now you're making silly mistakes or this and that. But honestly, unless we start free falling like the Ducks were doing, like a month or so ago, I'm not really in a position to panic too much. Yeah, that's kind of where I'm at with the current frustration of making silly mistakes in a game until they take themselves out of it. Yeah.
Yeah, so I think they played really well against the Panthers, if you remember. The score ended up being 4-1. They were able to shut out the Panthers offense for a good chunk of that game. And then I think they had a back-to-back and played the Lightning the very next day, and they ended up falling 4-1 because the Lightning just took them and slapped them around a little bit. And then they went to go play the Rangers. We all know the Rangers are struggling this year, and that's the game that they scored 3 goals within the first, 7 minutes of the game or something. Or 11.
So I went to that game.
Sure.
And it was ridiculous. It was ridiculous. We know the Rangers are basically free falling. They're gonna try to get the first overall pick because they're desperate. I don't think they're doing it on purpose, but I was sitting through that game and feeling a bit odd that I was frustrated that the Rangers weren't showing up. Like the Sharks were winning, and I'm like, I should be happy, but I am so frustrated. And it isn't because, I wanted like a good match or that, I also do follow the Rangers on the side. I was frustrated that this was a Team USA preview with JT Miller and Vincent Trocheck on the ice. And if you go back to watch, I mean, they took so many, not these specifically those guys, but the Rangers took so many penalties throughout the game, but they got up to a 3-0. The Sharks got up 3-0 in the first, I think in the first 10 minutes of the game, which is like ridiculous, exciting. But at the same time, if you watch how they scored those goals, I'm like, are we watching the Rangers AHL team out there? The way that they couldn't defend to save their lives, the way that they were collapsing by desperation. And then go and look where JT Miller is out on the ice, and his lack of effort was so frustrating to me. It was frustrating to watch it, and I just could not help but make commentary about like, yay, Team USA.
Well, maybe Miller is just reserving all his energy for the Olympics.
Like, bro was a pylon out there. He's like waving his sticker and, oh, maybe this will help. Maybe that, I guess it didn't help. Or I think it was like the first goal that the Sharks scored, and Miller was out there on the PK, and I think it was Wenberg who scored in the back door, and you see like a split second right before Wenberg scores, JT Miller sees him, comes down, and puts his stick on top of Wenberg's stick, doesn't do anything to stop the puck from getting tapped in, and I was both celebrating and annoyed. Like, that's what we get to look forward to. Your 25% effort out there.
Yep.
But yay, the Sharks, but Team USA.
Right. The very next game, they went it and played the Canucks, another team that is struggling this season. And again, scored 3 very quick goals in the game, in the first period, and then won 5-2. I can't remember if I watched this game or not. But again, missed all 3 of those goals. And I might have caught the next 2 or something. And I was like, it was exciting to see that this young group is starting to improve, connect, and all that good stuff. But then the game against the Oilers happened, and again, I did not watch those 3 goals. So this is why I'm so frustrated when they piss me off, because there's sometimes I can't get to the TV in time for the start of the game. I want them to wait for me to score their goals because I would like to witness them. But they were playing really well the first period, and then I think it was 3-0 going into the second, and the Oilers fought their way back. Right, the Oilers are going to do what they're going to do. They have McDavid and Draisaitl. It's basically an older version of Celebrini and Will Smith. um, and I don't think I caught overtime because I had to like step away for something. I did catch the highlights, but like it's
There were
just so.
highlights.
Or someone posted what the goal, the highlights for the Oilers, and it's just so frustrating because I felt like there was a little bit of like a lack of effort from the team. It started to look like. And this carried on over to the game yesterday against the Flames. Like, you could tell they were trying, but there was something off. Like, this team wasn't playing to their usual like speed or standard. But then I also heard that there's a bug going around in the team. Like, there's a few guys that have caught the bug or whatever. So I'm like, you know what? I'll give it to you this time. But if this continues to happen, I'm gonna go ahead and criticize y'all.
Gonna write a strongly worded note.
To Warsofsky. Mr. Warsofsky, sir. In other news, the Sharks did acquire a player via trade earlier. I don't know if it's been a couple of weeks now. And they acquired Sherwood from the Canucks. And I remember I was like, I know nothing about this guy. And I asked you about it. You seemed really excited. So I would like for you to tell our listeners what it is that you're excited about.
There's a lot to be excited about Kiefer Sherwood. So I have been following him since his Nashville Predator days. I believe he was only there for a season. He's been around. He was undrafted. He played for at least a season off the top of my head with the Ducks. But, he's one of those types of like late bloomers. As I said, he was undrafted, but he's a type of guy. He's like a Wenberg, but maybe like a half step down from that. Maybe even a step down. Like he's a bit of a Swiss Army knife type of guy. He didn't impress me so much during his Nashville Predator days, more so that he got on my radar because he spent some time, I believe, in their like top 2 lines when they were going through the injury mill and, playing fantasy. I was like, oh, is this some guy that maybe I could pick up? And if he's playing these minutes with, the likes of who the Nashville Predators have on their top 2 lines, maybe this is someone I should look out for. And then I learned that he was half Japanese, and then that got on my radar for different reasons, obviously. And then he got traded over to the Canucks, where he really started to shine. He primarily spent time on their 3rd line, which is kind of like our 4th line in terms of like grinding, like physical side to their game. But then he spent some time when they went through the injury mill. He got to spend some time on their top 2 lines. He got to spend time on their top power play unit. He spends time on penalty kills. He's huge when it comes to the physical side of his game. Last season he led the league in hits. So he was my go-to guy. He's the diamond in the rough. I picked him up off of free agency for fantasy, and I just felt like what a steal of a player. And then I drafted him again this season for our league, and He, right before he got traded over to us, he was leading the Canucks in scoring, which blew my mind because I'm like, I did not draft you for that, but this is great. I will take it. So, it I was actually talking about Kiefer leading up to this trade. A
Mhm.
friend of mine just randomly is like, "What are your thoughts on Kiefer Sherwood?" And I'm like, "I love Kiefer Sherwood. What do you want to talk about him?" So we started talking about how do you feel about if we were to go out and acquire him? And my first thought was like, okay, well, who would we give up? Because as much as I like Kiefer Sherwood, are we in a position where we should be trading? I know we're riding the high, we're in and out of a playoff spot, but we still need to develop. It is not like good, cool. We're ready to go. We're ready to chase the cup. No, we're not. we're really not. So I'm just very uncertain about what to do. But he was apparently talked about a lot given that the Canucks are where they are right now. I guess he's been on a lot of teams' radars. And so we ended up making the trade. I feel like he's the type of guy, the type of player that I think fans will really gravitate towards. He's very when he talked with the Vancouver media about the trade, it looked like it kind of took him a little bit by surprise, but not, he wasn't not expecting it given the situation that they're in, given he's on an expiring contract. But it really sounded like he jived well with his teammates, and that was a thing that was, emotionally making him emotional about being traded. And when he went to the Canucks, and just all the expectations that he had and then the franchise had, and the fact that it didn't work out the way that they planned it makes me feel good about a player who's able to be a bit vulnerable like that, to show that side of him. And then, of course, we haven't been able to see him in the Sharks lineup yet because he's injured. I believe it's a hand injury, but not anything that's season ending or whatever. They're just, he's been out skating, but hasn't been put up in the lineup just yet. But he does look excited as time goes on. I think it's just that hurdle he needs to cross where he's just like, yeah, I mean, I'm leaving a good feeling that I had with the Canucks, and I get it for the business side, but I think he's optimistic. And just right now, I guess the elephant in the room in all of this is whether or not they're going to be able to come to a contract deal that makes sense for both the organization and for him, because I believe he wants term, and I think the number out there has been like 30 million or something. So however they manage to swing that, I feel good that they're going to figure something out. And I do think he's going to be well worth the price we put on him, just from those things I talked about. I feel like his acquisition is to eventually replace someone like a Goodrow, like a Reeves, but have the ability to move up and down the lineup and be very versatile.
Like Wenberg, like you said. Yeah, that makes
Yeah.
sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wasn't, like I said, I was kind of taken by surprise that we made a trade like this, because it was so early before the trade deadline. And I wasn't really expecting Greer to do anything, but or nothing drastic. So I was like, okay, this is interesting. And I saw that he gave up 2 second rounders, I think, and a player,
Cole
Cole
Clayton.
Clayton, a defenseman. But to be honest with you, I haven't really heard of this guy.
I looked him up briefly. I believe we acquired him last season, so it isn't anyone necessarily that we had been like developing and drafted and all this stuff, and
Mm-hmm.
it just didn't work out. It just looks like we let me see if I can get more information about how we acquired him. But not anything that, like, why would we do that type of
Right,
thing.
right. Um, but yeah, so like I had mentioned, I haven't heard of this player too much. Meaning Sherwood. I asked you about it. You seemed excited, so I'm really interested to see how he's gonna fit into the lineup. Like where exactly he's gonna play, who he's gonna play with. I think it would be interesting to see him and Eklund on the same line, because Eklund's fast and slippery, and Sherwood, if he's like Wenberg, I feel like they would probably mesh really well. But it really depends, like who's coming into the lineup at that point, because we've had injuries and then healthy scratches and whatever. Borsovsky's doing his thing. But I'm excited to see like how that turns out since they're struggling a little bit. I hope he comes to play soon. Another trade rumor that we've been hearing about, which I know you're not too excited about, even though you do follow the Rangers. It seems that the Sharks have a pretty high interest in acquiring Panarin potentially. Shang reported on this when the news first broke. Says that they inquired about him, and if they do acquire him, they would sign an extension with him out here because I believe he's on an expiring contract. Let me know your thoughts.
This article put me in a bad mood.
Did it?
It legit put me in a bad mood because I don't know if you're familiar with what happened last season,
Yeah.
but ever since then, I've just been incredibly conflicted, not in terms of like, giving him the benefit of a doubt, but more just like because I follow the Rangers and he's on their but previous seasons he's been one of their top scorers and everything. It's just the fact that he's out on the ice for him, just like I used to root for you, and now it feels weird. Now I don't. Now I'm like, okay. So I mean, I have him on one of my fantasy teams. So if anything, I go, okay, he got me some points, and I don't feel anything. It's
Yeah.
previous to seasons where I'd be, like, yay, Brett scored. Oh, that was such a sick move that Brett did. Now I'm like, okay, Brett's on the ice. Or I don't even say Brett anymore. I just say Panarin. It's
Yeah.
like the disconnect that you kind of feel when things change and you're just like, I don't want any sort of emotional connection to you anymore. That's how I
Right.
feel.
So I forgot about what had happened last season. I was like, this is interesting because he can be an exciting player. He's a goal scorer. He's kind of shifty out there, whatever. And then I remember Lena asking about it in our Discord, and I didn't respond because I didn't know what she was talking about. And then I looked it up, right? And I was like, oh yeah, I forgot that happened. So this is a thing about the NHL. It's really hard for me to keep up with all the wrongs that happen in this league because there's so many. So, unless I write them down, which I probably should at this point, I don't know who to root for anymore. So it's like at this point it's like I'll root for you to an extent, but you're going to have to earn that for me because I don't know if you're a terrible person or not. For those of you who don't know, who might be new to hockey this season or who just are new to this podcast or whatever it is,
Or don't follow
Panarin
the Rangers.
or don't follow the Rangers. There were some allegations that came out last season that Panarin SA'd someone on the Rangers team. I don't remember the details. I don't know if you'd want to quickly talk about it, but
So I do have an article that I've we'll pull some excerpts from. So, the New York Rangers forward Artemi Panarin and Madison Square Garden Sports, the company that owns the team, paid financial settlements to a Rangers employee last year after she alleged that Panarin sexually assaulted her, according to an NHL source who reviewed the settlements and 3 others briefed about them. That woman left the organization in August 2024 upon reaching the agreements, which include non-disclosure and no admission of wrongdoing clauses. The alleged assault occurred in December of 2023 during a Rangers road trip, according to 2 Rangers sources briefed about the allegations. Panarin and the woman, who was a regular part of the team's traveling party, were at a post-game gathering at the hotel with about a dozen other players and staff members. Panarin allegedly took her phone and said he would only give it back if she retrieved it from his hotel room, the sources said. When she went to his hotel room to retrieve the device, Panarin pinned her down on the bed. She pushed him off, retrieved her phone, and left the room. There was no record of the woman reporting the incident to law enforcement. She also did not immediately alert the team, but about 3 months after the alleged sexual assault, she informed the team as part of an investigation into a separate incident. The team learned that the woman, whose anxiety around airplane travel was well known among team members, had shared her anti-anxiety medicine with a player who had the same issue. She was placed on paid leave pending the outcome of the investigation. The female employee felt she was treated unfairly, according to the team sources, and she was then informed that the team about the alleged assault. So some additional weird vibes from last season was the way that the social media teams, or I don't know, I think the organization, after this kind of all played out, I think they wanted to kind of separate the business folks from the player side of the infrastructure, because like any social media team for any sport or anything that you're doing, we're used to, oh, it's game day, they're gonna show the players coming in, they're whatever, maybe they're promoting something that night. You've got, like all these photos, all these videos that if you're following their social feed, like you can check out. They went from that last season to, they had a stationary camera, and it wasn't even placed in a very flattering way. It was like almost like the parking garage camera. And just showed the players walking in, and that was how it was for from my recollection the rest of the season. And there was nothing in terms of like glossy, hey, cool players coming in for the game. It was just very awkward, like I said, like surveillance from the parking garage camera. So that just kind of put a bad taste in my mouth in terms of how this sort of played out. We already coming off of how the whole Hockey Canada thing played out in courts. Like, it just, at the end of the day, I don't want any of that anywhere near the vibes in the locker room right now. It's really difficult to, like you said, to follow really any sports, because it's, we're only talking about hockey because this is the sport that our podcast is, based around primarily. But that isn't to say that this sort of stuff or terrible things aren't happening in other sports, but it does make it difficult to be a sports fan, to root and to give money to an organization that at the end of the day, it's like you're putting this blind trust into the players that you're rooting for on the ice. And when there is a person out there that you're like, yeah, I know that you are voting my rights away each and every day, but I need to find some way to unfortunately detach myself from that situation if I want to continue to love what this sport majorly makes me happy about.
Right. Yeah, it's that fine line, but all that to say is that we will not be excited if Panarin is acquired by the Sharks during the trade deadline or whatever. Um, we'll root for the team. We won't root for the individual per se. It's just those complicated feelings, but yeah.
It's like to the point where I won't even want to like talk about what a trade could look like. I won't even like if it happens. I just like I was talking about this to a friend a couple of days ago, and then he was trying to talk about it like as strictly hockey, and I said, "Sorry, I can't even do that with you right now. Like I don't. It just does. I can't even. I don't care. I would not care because anything about it would just make me feel incredibly icky. I wouldn't even be able to set that aside and just look at it from like a hockey fan perspective because it just everything about it just makes me just like why okay, I get why on the hockey side that it's like going back to like the Erik Karlsson trade, even though I feel like why are we trying to acquire a guy like that when we have so many other guys in the pipeline? I don't see where he would fit in long term. He wants a very he's 34. Like, why are we doing that? Like, we have Toffoli, and then we signed him to 4 years. But why are we going to add another Toffoli type player who's on he's by hockey standards he's geriatric? Like, why are we going to do that? I just don't understand. It would confuse me, but at the end of the day, that's probably the most I want to talk about the hockey side of all of this, just because it makes me icky.
Okay, we can move on. Big events coming up later this week. The Winter Olympics are starting in a few days on February 6th. I haven't actually kept up with like how and where to watch this. Obviously,
Peacock.
NBC, Peacock, streaming services. There you go. Yeah, I don't know. How are we feeling? Like, there's still going to be a few hockey games this week, but there's going to be an extended break because of these Olympics for 2-3 weeks.
The 4th through the 22nd. So
right.
Pretty much just about all of February.
Right. Right. Yeah, so the Sharks are going to be represented by 4 players?
4.
4? Okay. There's
Kurashev,
Celebrini, and
Kurashev.
There's one guy. There's one other guy.
You said Mac Wenberg.
Uh-huh.
Oh, Regenda.
There you go.
Pavel Regenda.
So we'll be rooting for them. Yeah, I will not be rooting for the USA in any category.
There's not going to be anything to root for.
No.
Well, I will be rooting for the women's side of hockey. I'm excited for women's hockey. I will sit back and see what I should be excited about for Team USA, but I am pretty much ready for them to get knocked out in the quarterfinals based on what I had to endure against the Rangers that past Friday. Like, I feel like Team USA should have to pay me to have sat through that because that was embarrassing.
Yeah. I have my own personal feelings about rooting for the US during these times, so here's what it is. Go ahead, catch the games. They'll be starting soon. They'll be gone for 2 weeks. It's the only way you will be able to consume hockey until then, so have fun with it.
But
most of these teams are going to have the best of the best, you know? Not every team, not every country's team, but most.
Team USA. Remember, Nest, it is not an all-star team, but isn't it though?
Stupid.
You have the pick of the litter, and you're like,
Doesn't seem right.
nah. We want to go against the grain.
Oh my god. Okay, I want to take a moment to read our ad for the week. Oh my god, the Super Bowl's coming up. Okay. Super Bowl 60 deserves a sportsbook built for the moment. DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of Super Bowl 60, puts you right in the center of the biggest game of the year. Anything can happen during the Super Bowl, and DraftKings has your back with early exit. If your player goes down in the first half, you still get paid in cash when your bet settles. No bonus bets, no waiting. While other sportsbooks don't offer injury protection, DraftKings covers the entire first half, even the second quarter. And early exit works on live bets too. Pre-game or in-game, DraftKings has you covered. For those of you who don't know, the Super Bowl is happening here in the Bay Area. It should be an interesting time for us here with all the beautiful traffic that we have to endure. It's just going to get worse. But some cool events happening around. But yeah, new to DraftKings, new customers can bet just $5 and get $300 in bonus bets if your bet wins. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now and use code XXX. That's an interesting code. That's code XXX to turn $5 into $300 in bonus bets if your bet wins. In partnership with DraftKings, the crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. New York, call 8778-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY. Connecticut, call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. On behalf of Boot Hill Casino in Kansas, a wager tax pass-through may apply in Illinois, 21 plus in most states. Void in Ontario, restrictions apply. Bet must win to receive bonus bets, which expire in 7 days. Minimum odds required. For additional terms and responsible gaming resources, see dkng.co/audio. Limited time offer. So, I wanted also to bring attention to a little silly thing that we experienced last week, where
just a little silly thing.
So the Empty Netter podcast guys were outed as hockey bros. Like, neither of us are surprised by what the news that broke.
Shocking.
They were very bigoted in a lot of the comments they said about Heated Rivalry before doing their reaction videos to the show, and supposedly fell in love with it. I never watched or listened to any of their episodes regarding Heated Rivalry, but people said that they seemed genuinely interested by the end of it. Good for them. Whatever. But the texts that came out about how the way they were speaking about the creators and the fans who enjoyed the show, I just want to say, I don't care if they explained what they meant by it. They still said those words, and those words were not an accident. And so we are not supporters of these people. We are not going to pretend that they're allies unless they do a lot of work to earn the community's trust. After that, there is no reason I should give them any sort of, what's the word? I'm not going to give them the benefit of the doubt, okay? These are grown men. They know what they're saying. They know what they're doing. I don't care. But when the news broke, I retweeted the article and I said, in other news, tree found in forest. You know, like I said, we weren't surprised by these comments. And I was trying to promote the podcast, and I said, make sure you go ahead and give our podcast a listen instead, where we care about the content from the get-go before we talk about it. Because we did, right? This was an exciting thing for us. For whatever reason, we got comments on that from this one particular person who not only commented on the post, they retweeted it, like they quote tweeted it with the exact same thing same comment, and they were like going after us for retweeting the article that happened. And it seemed like they were more upset with the fact that to them it looked like we were supporting the reporter who broke this, who wrote it for Outsports. Listen, we have talked about how we don't support Outsports before. We know that the reporter, one of the founders, I don't even know, I don't care to look this up right now, is a Republican, Trump supporter, whatever it is, and we don't support that. Like, we are very outspoken about the things we do support on this podcast, and we won't shy away from that. So this guy took it out of context, but should I read the tweets? So this guy goes, oh, this was after Empty Netters broke their silence and explained their tweet, their initial texts, which I didn't listen to and didn't care to. Said, y'all going to revise this now that the texts have been released and we have context, or are you comfortable joining the dog pile based on lies from a pro-fascist Republican transphobic to Satan supporter? Disappointed. Dan has said some awful things, so why the need to lie? Which confused me a little bit. And normally I let you take I let you respond to these things because I get really heated about it. But I was like, you know what? I have time today. So I was like, revise this to what exactly? They literally call the creators of the shows losers. It's verbatim. The language used is not welcome to our community at all. Why are you so pressed to defend them? Direct that anger towards people willing to make a profit of us instead. Instead. And then I wanted to make another comment, but I guess he commented before the other things sent, where I explained that we don't support Outsports. And I said, and if you're new here, we've been critical of Outsports. We pay attention to these things. They're not black and white issues. We're critical of everyone that doesn't support the queer community genuinely and only seeks to take advantage of us, whether it be for clicks or for money. They were so upset that they were like, why are you so pressed to defend a pro-fascist republic? Literally the same thing that they said in the first tweet. Transphobic to Satan supporter. Why attack rather than groom? These are interesting terms that they used. Why attack rather than groom and develop allies? Why lie? Why villainize someone for a private conversation? Unfollow, now unsubscribe. The truth is you're all grifters, disappointed. And this just feels like...
Can I just say that you don't need to announce your exit? You can literally leave and please let the door hit you on the way out. Because how do you come over, kick the door down, and you don't even go here? Apparently, this person has been following us for some time or something. And this is the final straw. Like, clearly you haven't been
paying attention
around. Yeah, you just haven't been around. If that's the what's the saying? The thing that broke the camel's back?
The straw?
Yeah, the straw that, like, then bye.
Yeah.
Especially when you point out the interesting phrasing of why attack rather than groom. Okay, I'm not grooming anybody. That's a very weird word to use. And then, you know, the end of sentence would, you know, develop allies. Like, okay, I think this is the appropriate time to then say, or when we quote tweeted this, because after this interaction, we were immediately blocked, which I was rolling on the floor laughing because we were talking, you know, separately on a different platform, and then I'm like, I thought you wanted to talk. When
right.
you kicked down the door, said a bunch of things, we had one interaction, and then you dramatically exited the house, slammed the door, and drove away.
Yeah, what happened? I thought you wanted to talk. It was an interesting confrontation or whatever. I just like you didn't even give me a chance to respond. But like why villainize someone for a private conversation was also very interesting to me because if someone's showing you their true colors in a private conversation, why are you going to try to see something else? That man does not like you. Why are you defending him? Anyways, just wanted to laugh about that for a little bit.
But
Uh,
it goes to what you were saying earlier about, so in our response, our final response to this, we had said, just to be perfectly clear to anyone who thinks we're brand new, the text just reiterate the normalization of hockey bro behavior. Our issue was never with the when. You misunderstand the tree found in forest. If you think this is an attack, then thanks for the block. I'm not wasting my energy on grooming and developing those guys. So I've
First of
only
all,
caught,
I'm not going to groom anyone. What the hell, man? That's insane. Why would you say that?
like,
That has to be a bot, right?
I wish it was. I wish it was, but it doesn't seem that way.
Right.
So I want to make perfectly clear to anyone who does listen to our podcast, who did enjoy their content, who is now conflicted, what have you. This is not laughing at anyone who gave them any bit of their time. I personally, when I saw that they were making reaction videos, that's just not my cup of tea. I don't need to watch straight hockey bros react to a very well put together queer hockey show. If I wanted to get a straight person's reaction to it, I have more than enough straight hockey friends who I'm not going to sit them down and be like, "Hey, give me this reaction. Let me make you sit through 6 episodes." Like, if they're not going to do it, they're not going to do it. But if they want to, if they're happen to watch it, I enjoy hearing, what they're saying. But not all of them are folks that I keep particularly close to my personal life, because at the end of the day, I'm not saying they're like those hockey bros, but if anything, if they show that they're willing to step through and make themselves into a better person, those are the folks that I'm going to utilize my energy and time to develop into someone who could be a safe space. But I've only watched one Empty Netters episode unrelated to Heated Rivalry, and that was when they had Celebrini on for when he was the first season he was in the league.
Mm-hmm.
I don't remember how it got on my radar, but I was like, oh, okay, yeah, a Celebrini interview. Like, I'm interested in hearing what Celebrini has to say. But after that interview, I never went back to them, and it was just like, yeah, I don't really follow straight hockey bro, podcasts. I mean, not to continue to harp on it, but it is one of the primary reasons why we started our own podcast. It's just, like we said, a tree found in the forest. There are so many of these guys that at the end of the day, I primarily stick to analytical podcasts, because when bros get together and talk amongst themselves, it's not surprising that that's how they talk about in their text messages. And that was horrifying to see how they talk with their friends.
Yeah,
So
it's not cute.
that's what a lot of hockey bro content is like. So that's why we're not surprised when this came out.
Right. Okay. Enough of that. I don't want to talk about them no more. uh, on to the next topic here. Is Hockey Canada and heated rivalry thing, merch thing you want to talk about?
Yeah, so hold on, let me find the other thing that explains it. So, Hockey Canada put out a post on their socials where they're showing that they are customizing a Team Canada jersey with what ends up being Hollander with the number that he wears in the show. And it says, "Hey Shane, a special gift is on its way to the cottage." And under that post, Brendan Brady, who is a producer on Heated Rivalry, says, "I am sure that Hockey Canada would be giving all gross proceeds, profits off any jerseys that they make, claiming to be inspired by our hit TV show to an LGBTQIA plus or like you can play." And then he mentions Jacob Tierney and I are very hopeful for a better future for hockey culture and sports in general. And that starts with ensuring our youth feel included and safe in their sport of choice. So we've been seeing a lot of the ways that hockey is trying to ride on the coattails of the success of this show. Not to go back to that podcast we were just talking about, but one of the things that was mentioned was how they were making merch, which apparently, according to them, is because people who were following their podcast were telling them that they should. Personally, I wouldn't buy any of their merch, and I find it really interesting that one of them was from the closet to the cottage.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, okay, if someone wants that, more power to them. But ever since the league has been doing more of these promo nights that highlight whatever cause that they're doing, one of the first things that we always think about is like, well, okay, where is that money going to? How does that go back into that community? And given that that podcast was doing that, apparently a lot of folks who were following them or commenting on their socials asking about where that money is going to, and apparently they never said anything. I even looked on their website to see if if they had mentioned it in their merchandise description. So they did end up mentioning it after that Outsports article, and that they had donated it to You Can Play. Apparently they had reached out to them ahead of making the merch, and they had screenshots and all. It's like, so that's good. That's good that you did that. I would say in the future, you should just be upfront.
Mm-hmm.
Because anytime we've done any sort of, even, we don't have much of anything, but that is one of the first things that we have definitely discussed about, okay, well, how much of, at the end of the day, we just want to make sure that whatever the prices to actually make the merchandise gets covered, and then how much of that percentage then we do get as gross profits, and then what do we do with that money? Because we're not in this business to make money for our own personal gains. We're here to create the safe space. And people asked us early on in our first season, like, hey, you guys got merch or blah, blah, blah. So that kind of started the conversation of like, oh, I guess maybe we should make some merch. Like, people want merch, so maybe we should look into that. But at the end of the day, we're like, okay, we have money. How should we put this back into the community? Those are things that we are always thinking about, whether it is queer based, whether it's diversity, ethnicity based. Those are things that we are always thinking about. And it's always frustrating when people who don't live in those spaces are like, oh, yeah, let's make some merch. And then they think about it after the fact. They think about how, oh, or maybe they don't even think about it. I don't even know if it registers to them that that was a thing that they should have done. And then they should be like, oh, my bad. We should have been upfront with it. All that going back to Hockey Canada. Hockey Canada trying to ride on the coattails of the show's success. And the showrunners are like, where's that money going? It's cool that you're excited to put, Hollander on your jerseys because people are going to be very excited to have something like that in relation to the show. But what are you going to do with all that money?
Mm.
Curious.
They're gonna keep it. Yeah, it's very frustrating, but someone who did it almost right, almost perfectly. We did mention that the Ottawa Senators had their own personal jerseys with Rosanov's and Hollander's name on them. They were selling them during their Pride Night, I believe. And someone from their team made an announcement, or like one of the fans tweeted it and said that the proceeds were going to go to what is it, Ottawa Pride Hockey. And then it came out that someone who works for Ottawa Pride hadn't even heard about this. So then we were a little skeptical about, like, okay, what is the legitimacy of this? What is the word I'm trying to find? How legit is this? And then it turns out that the Senators did, in fact, donate those proceeds to Ottawa Pride Hockey. They just didn't tell them beforehand, which is good that they did, but I don't know if it was just a last-minute decision that they just decided to do it and didn't reach out before, or they just were not organized about it. But I mean, all in all, it is cool that they did donate to the LGBTQ community, specifically a gay hockey thing. But yeah, it was. Let me see. When was this posted? January 19th. Ottawa Pride Hockey put out a statement that said, this past Saturday, the Ottawa Senators added custom jerseys to their team shop with the name Hollander on number 24 and Rosanov on number 81. In reference to the two main characters of Heated Rivalry. Signs posted in the team shop and announcements made during the game indicated all proceeds from these jersey sales would go to Ottawa Pride Hockey. To our members, in all transparency, the coordinators were first made aware of this via social media after the jerseys were launched. We have since received confirmation from the Senators that they will indeed be providing their net profits from Hollander Rosanov jersey sales to Ottawa Pride Hockey for both online and in-store sales. At this time, the amount per jersey is still to be identified, and we will share more information as we get it. I don't know if they posted... Oh, there's more. Should I read the whole thing?
Go for it.
All right. So then they said, to the Ottawa Senators, we are grateful for the support your organization is providing and are committed to building our ongoing relationship with the common goal of making hockey more welcoming. The buzz around Heated Rivalry and the positive response to the jerseys released by the Senators prove there is value and demand to make hockey more inclusive. In doing so, we also commit to holding the Senators and NHL accountable when actions fall short of community expectations. This includes the recent signing of goalie James Reimer. The NHL sets the tone of hockey culture at the highest level. We remain guarded towards the NHL's commitment to inclusivity. The initial assumptions that these jerseys were not real say a great deal about the level of trust the queer community has for the NHL as a whole. Moving forward, we hope to see the NHL embody change at the systemic level to ensure that hockey is representative of the diversity of the entire community. We also would like to acknowledge the work of author Rachel Reed and director Jacob Tierney for creating a Heated Rivalry world, which has become a catalyst in sparking conversations about creating actual change. Finally, for everyone participating in the efforts to make hockey a better place, you're always welcome at our cottage. Signed, OPH coordinators. So what a great statement. They went ahead and let everyone know that yes, they were contacted and this is real. They will be getting proceeds from those jerseys. And they use this opportunity to call out the NHL for their wrongdoings and their lack of support within the community. Like, yes, we're grateful for you, senators, but then why did you sign someone like James Reimer, who has been outspoken against our community and the NHL as a whole, with the backlash that happened just a couple seasons ago with the jerseys and stuff? So I like this place. You're all
I
right.
I do also want to point out the next day there were representatives from the Ottawa Pride hockey that I believe they were at where the Senators play, because they did post a picture with those two representatives. The third person in the picture is turned away from the camera and is wearing the Hollander customized jersey for the Ottawa Senators. There's a backdrop of the Senators logo on the wall. They also have a representative who was in the pro shop and holding a Rosenoff jersey. So looks like, at least at the end of the day, everything worked out the way they wanted it to.
Yeah. So shout out to the Senators for doing something right. Um, Speaking of jerseys, well, the LA Kings are going to be hosting their own Filipino Heritage Night. I don't know if you saw this. Um, it's like one of those little promo things to buy tickets. Like, it's a very short summary. It says, "Celebrate Filipino heritage as the Kings take the ice against the Calgary Flames. Um, Honor Filipino culture and heritage with a specialty hockey jersey ticket pack while supplies last." They're gonna host this on the 28th of February after the Olympic break, and I want your thoughts on the jersey design. I'm gonna share this. I'm gonna share my screen real quick so that people who are watching can see.
As a hockey fan of the Sharks, I don't like what's in the middle of the sun.
For those listening, it is the King's crown. But it is a very Filipino themed jersey with the giant Filipino sun as the crest, and then the striping that a lot of jerseys have. Well, I couldn't find anything else of them, like,
Explaining it.
yeah, I don't know, maybe they'll post it closer to the
Yeah.
game.
Yeah,
But
I think I would actually like to wait to give further comment, just because I am not familiar with the design choice that's on the arms and in the waist area. I mean, the sun is obviously a very prominent symbol used in the Filipino flag, representing the various provinces and just the solidarity
mhm,
of the country. So anytime that's sort of used, I mean, I generally love it, but I'm unfamiliar about the other aspects
right.
design wise
I
that
just
was
thought it was
incorporated into
cool.
that.
We've seen a couple of teams now celebrate Filipino heritage, and I think the very first team that got on our radar was the Winnipeg Jets when they sold the
I
T-shirt.
love their designs
Yeah.
for
We
when they
we did
do
talk
Filipino
about.
Heritage Night. Yeah.
I can't remember who the second team was, and I think this is now the third team that we've noticed do something for the Filipinos.
I want to say it was the Canucks because I believe they did
Uh,
it recently and I was very tempted.
yeah, that sounds right. So it's nice to see that Filipinos are getting their share of attention now, because y'all are everywhere and y'all deserve it. Another cool design I saw come up is the Pittsburgh Penguins for Black History Month have a pretty sick looking jersey. Wait, I don't want to play the video. I just want to show y'all because It's pretty cool. The artist is explaining his um, reasoning behind everything, and it's all like it's like African designs back there. He mentions the design on the penguin's chest because I think he said something about wearing your heritage proudly on your chest, which I thought was a nice detail. And the jersey is brown to kind of incorporate the African heritage and stuff. So this is basically paying tribute to the African penguins. And yeah, I think he did an amazing job.
I love
It's
how
very
atypical it is.
Yeah, it's very different from like the typical hockey jersey layout, right? It's think outside the box, literally. And I truly love it. I don't like brown. I don't know if I would personally wear it because brown is not my color, but this is something I would get to hang on my wall or something, you know? Like it's pretty sick. Okay. And then as mentioned, so today is February 1st as we're recording on a Sunday, and it is the beginning of Black History Month. And I thought it was pretty cool. If you guys haven't heard of Black Girl Hockey Club, they've been around for a few years doing the work to expose basically Black girls into hockey and make it more inclusive and welcoming for them because as a whole, hockey has not been very inviting to Black players. We've talked about the racism that they experience and stuff, and just this year it was announced that, oh my god, I forgot the player's name, but the USA women's hockey team is going to have their very first Black player on the roster. So it's it's very like we're so behind, but Black Girl Hockey Club is getting the recognition right now. They were featured on the Kelly Clarkson show, and I thought that was so great and amazing for the sport itself, but hockey and like Black girls in general because they go get your recognition. And oh my god, I should have done more research before doing all this. But the founder, whose name I cannot remember, and I don't know if it's in here, she goes on and she talks about the work that they do for the girls and how.
Renee Hess.
Thank you so much, Renee Hess. Bless her and
And
the.
the first Black woman to play for Team USA in this upcoming Olympics is Layla Edwards.
Yes, we did mention her when it was first announced, but I couldn't remember her name off the top of my head. But in this video, she's telling Kelly Clarkson that they have given over $167,000 worth of scholarships to Black girls to play hockey because it is a very expensive sport. So, this is a very ¿cómo se llama? Like a community, no, roots. What's the word?
Grassroots
Grassroots
initiative.
Yes, thank you. Words escape me. But love this for them. They're doing great work and love that they're getting the recognition they deserve.
And this is just another great example of why you need to do more. Why the bar does not need to be below the ground. Just because you're talking about inclusion is not enough. You need to do more. If you truly want to be an ally to diverse communities, you need to do more.
There's always work to be done to make everyone feel more included. Check out, I just saw this right now as I was looking. Look at how awesome this design is that the PWHL did for Black History Month.
That's fun.
I love the colors. This is so fun, and I'm gonna have to do research to see who the artist is because wow. If you guys are listening and can't see, go look at I found it on the Boston Fleet's Twitter's. PWJ probably posted it as well, so check that out. It's pretty sick. And not so great news regarding the PWHL. As we all know, because we're all keeping up with politics right now, there have been a lot of ice raids in Minnesota, and I think there were a couple of people on the Frost who might have spoken out. um, a couple of players who spoke out a little bit and talked about it, but for whatever reason, um, I still follow Ian Kennedy because he covers the PWHL pretty well. He tweeted about that. He says, I continue to hear troubling comments about the PWHL. The league will not even acknowledge, let alone reply to any request for comment related to equity or diversity. They have ignored all requests, not just on situation in Minnesota, but on all social issues. So he was quote tweeting something that says, from a Nathan Common Lamb, says Victor Wembanyama says that the PR has tried to stop him from speaking about ICE. I'm not surprised because while working on a story that will be released tomorrow, the PWHL denied me permission to speak to someone who wanted to talk to me about the violence in Minnesota. And there's a screenshot of this article that says, "Yeah, PR has tried, but I'm not going to sit here and give some politically correct answer." The Frenchman told reporters after practice at Victory Capital Performance Center, "Every day I wake up and see the news, and I'm horrified. I think it's crazy that some people might make it seem like." Or make it sound like the murder of civilians is acceptable. For context, this was shortly after the killing of Alex Preddy, and people were wondering if any athletes or like Minnesota sports clubs were going to talk about it. I believe this guy plays for a Minnesota team. I just don't know which one. And so that's why Ian Kennedy retweeted it with like the PWHL and like not letting Minnesota players speak out about it as much. Um, and yeah, I think the very next day the Warriors were going to be playing the what's the Minnesota team?
Timberwolves.
Thank you, the Timberwolves, and they ended up postponing the game to so they wouldn't endanger the Minnesota community or anything. Like they didn't have to come out. They only postponed it a day, but they did ask some players about it. And as mentioned, I think when we were talking to Tara, how the NBA is pretty like one of those. The WNBA and the NBA are usually far ahead of a lot of sports, major sports, in talking about social issues. And so I did find a video of like Steph Curry talking about his thoughts about what had happened. He's always one of the biggest names that talks, who's very outspoken about these things, along with like Steve Kerr and like all the big names. And Sarah Sivian retweeted this and said, "It's so disappointing that most hockey players just don't seem to give a fuck about what's going on in the world." And I bring this up because this is one of the frustrating things that I personally see and like am really frustrated. Like, well, I just said it's like I wish that there were some players who had the guts to talk about these things, right? Specifically the American players, but we all know how conservative this sport is. I don't really know how many left-leaning hockey players there are in the league. Um, and especially because we just saw the Florida Panthers and Matthew Tkachuk fucking kissing the ground that Trump walks on just days before all this happened. It's not surprising that no one has, but it's like these issues are so, I don't know, they're just so serious, and like it's everywhere in the news. It's communities are being broken apart, families are being torn apart. It's devastating seeing it everywhere, and it would, and not that it would change anything, but it would be nice to see support from a sport that you follow and commit so much of your time to.
I wanted to point out there was a picture that came on my feed. I think like the day after the Warriors and the Timberwolves had postponed their game. Larry Nance Jr. forward for the Cleveland Cavs. There was a picture of him being posted. I guess he was walking into their game, and he's wearing a black shirt that has three. I believe it's supposed to be. I think it's like the triplets from the what's that cartoon with the ducks, the Donald Duck
DuckTales?
family? Yeah, I think it's DuckTales, so it's like the triplets
Uh-huh.
of the cast. But so it's three of them in a row, and they're just wearing like gray shirts, and they have angry expressions on their faces. On the top half of the shirt, it says "All my homies," and then at the bottom of it say "Hate ice." And then let me see. There's a little bit underneath it. It's and then there's an additional paragraph that says, "No one is illegal on stolen land. Immigrants make America great." Like if I think I sent that to a group of my friends and be like, hockey could never. Like it's literally like the easiest thing you could do
Wear a
is to make a
shirt.
statement, wear a shirt, makes a statement. It would be like pulling teeth to get anyone in the hockey community at the pro level to do something like that.
Right.
And then when someone even mentions like maybe, going back to like how I think a couple of seasons ago when we were like talking about some Pride night, and I don't even remember what the context was out, but I went on a rant about how I'm like tired of players that get asked about what that night means to them or if they want to say something and they don't even directly address it. They just start listing off all the different specialty nights or promo nights or the diverse community that's being represented. Like it's like they're reading off a script or some sort of statement that PR gave them or whatever, and it just makes it just seem so disconnected from what's happening versus what we see in a sport like or in a league like the NBA,
Right.
where it feels more authentic to walk in with a shirt that you went out of your way to go and get versus being asked about it. And like I get why people like standards are below the ground, especially when you're new to the sport and you're trying to cling on to something. But when you've been in it for so long, you're just like, that is just not good enough.
Mm.
Literally address the exact thing that's happening.
Yeah, and I wish I could say like this should be easy for them because this is a league full of immigrants, but they're all white men and well, not all, but majority white men, and we all know that's not the target of these attacks. So how could they relate? And it's just I don't know. We're just in a really shitty place right now as a country, and it just to find support in anywhere would feel okay.
Yeah, it was pretty disappointing to not see any of the I don't know if the Frost had a game that day. I want to say that they did. The
They did.
Wild definitely did, and it was some outdoor event. And I made a joke about a week later or something where I believe it was the Columbus game against whoever it was, and that game got postponed due to snow. And I said to a group of friends, like, "Oh, so we'll cancel a game because of snow, but not for ice."
Right. Yeah. This league is a joke. But
But
here
let's
we
end
are.
on a positive note, though. Outside of hockey for the upcoming Olympics, what sport are you looking forward to, or sports you're looking forward to watching?
I don't know. I never ever keep up with curling, but for whatever reason, it's like always on during the Olympics.
I love curling, and I can't really explain why.
Right. I'm like,
I do love that it's like a strategic game.
right.
It's not necessarily very physically demanding, though I'm sure. I remember, I think it was last season when the Sharks were on a road trip and they all went to some curling place and they were trying it out, and you could see like these hockey players like falling over or like losing their balance, trying to do that whole that stance you have to do to like
Right.
get the stone going. So I mean, there's definitely a level of physicality involved, but it is very much a strategy based game. And
Yeah.
it yeah, I don't know. I love watching curling. I don't think I properly understand the game outside of obviously you knock your other opponent's stones out of the way. You're trying to get to like the middle or whatever. But somehow I find it like incredibly fascinating. And
Yeah.
then in general, I'm getting more hyped about Team USA's figure skating group that they selected. I think the
Mhm.
women are just bringing like the best vibes possible. So I'm looking forward to that. And then snowboarding has always just been very exciting to me. But I think in
Mhm.
general, whatever's on, I think I might check it out because generally I do love the Winter Olympics more than the Summer Olympics.
I don't. I think I like the summer just because there's more sports that I played in that growing up in that category than winter. But I think another interesting one. I don't know if you saw the clip of SNL. They posted a clip of like promoting the Winter Olympics, and one of the the people there was like doing the what is it called, luge, the one where you're like one
Yeah.
person thing. You're just dude, it's so funny. I like retweeted it. You should go watch it. But I don't really watch SNL anymore, and sometimes they're not even that funny no more. But this one actually made me laugh. It's silly, but
Okay,
that would be
what do you think would be more scary to do, the luge or the skeleton? Because it's just a
which was
difference of the skeleton is you go head first and you're face down. The
absolutely
luge is
not.
the opposite. So
I
you
think it.
rather go feet first
I think
and
so.
upright?
I think so.
Yeah, probably. I probably agree with that too. Either one is very scary to me to think about.
Yeah, yeah. I don't know. I would not put myself in that position or a situation at any point in time. But anyways, the Olympics is going to be fun. I hopefully it'll be a nice little mental break from things, but we'll see how things go.
Yep,
Was that positive enough?
think so.
All right, that's all we have for you today. I've been your host, Ness.
And I'm Jay.
Catch us next time. Hopefully, we'll be more positive. Bye.